I will now show you how the using some animations how the GDI actually works, or 3 different technologies actually work. So, this is a carburetor engine, you can see this is a carburetor here, this is the air filter, fuel is coming in, this is throttle, you reduce the area, you know how a carburetor works. So, carburetor, you know, this is the throttle, air is coming in through the filter, and then you create a throat where the velocity increases, pressure drops, and then the fuel actually is sucked from this tank, and then fuel air mixing takes place, and then you know it goes into the intake manifold. This is another example, Venturi, you create a low pressure, fuel is sucked in. So, you know very well how the carburetor works. Okay. Now, let us look at port fuel injection. So, this is how a port fuel injection works. This is the inlet port, this is the intake valve, this is the exhaust valve. Okay. Here somewhere you have the spark plug. So, when the intake port opens, at that time you inject the fuel. So, fuel air mixture comes in, some fuel in liquid form also comes in, and then you close this, you compress it, and then you apply the spark. This is how a PFI works. And of course, when the lambda is 1, it is called stoichiometric mixture, lambda is less than 1, it is rich mixture, lambda more than 1, it is lean mixture. Okay, and you know how to calculate the air fuel mixture. You have to understand that the fuel injection pressure in PFI engine is limited to only 2.7 to 3 bar, that is it. So, a small electric pump is enough for PFI engine, but on the other hand this is a GDI engine. Okay, and look at this animation. First thing that you will notice is that this piston is of very strange shape, it is not normal piston. So, piston has a bowl cavity which is like this. Okay. So, you see here the air is coming in and you see it is going like this. So, this shape actually allows the air to swirl in a particular vertical swirl and go like this, and then you see there is an injector. Now, this injector also injects in a, it is a different injector, it injects in a hollow cone, fuel in a hollow cone, it is a single hole, it can be multiple holes also, but it is a hollow cone injector. So, that means the fuel that is injected now, because of this air, it will get concentrated very close to the spark plug. Okay. And then you see remaining areas will be devoid of fuel. Okay. So, this is how you create stratification in the combustion chamber. The other areas will not get any fuel, area very close to the spark plug will get fuel, and then you apply the spark. So, you see intake, compression, injection, combustion and exhaust. Look at this animation carefully, it is fast. Fuel injection in this case is happening towards the end of the compression stroke, just like in a diesel engine. Okay. And this is at part load animation. Now, you can ask me, this is part load, but the engine is also supposed to move in full load and cater to full load requirement. How do you do it? How do you do it? Very simple. It is not necessary that I inject only in the end of the compression stroke. How about if I inject when the piston is going down? So, you will now inject the fuel and you will get enough time for the entire combustion chamber to be filled with homogeneous charge. Stratification is done only when the injection takes place at the end of the compression stroke. When you need full power or full load, at that time you do injection during the intake stroke, and when you do that, the entire combustion chamber is filled with homogeneous charge, just like PFI engine. The only difference is that you are not preparing outside, you are preparing inside, but you have enough time, because the piston will travel 180 degree, then it will start coming up. So, almost you have 240 degree or so available to you for mixing, that is enough. The engine combustion chamber has enough level of swirl and turbulence that it will form homogeneous mixture everywhere, right. So, even full load can be met. So, gasoline engines are popular in road transportation. Carburetor and manifold injection systems run on stoichiometric mixture. So, they operate only on stoichiometric mixture, slightly on the left side, slightly on the right side. 15 is stoichiometric, 12 to 18 is rich and lean side, right. That is the limit for both engines. GDI engine is efficient and high power output. What gives it efficiency? Stratification at part loads. So, GDI engine runs on overall lean mixture preparation. Okay. So, if you are operating the engine at part load, you are having stratified charge, and that saves you lot of fuel. A vehicle engine is operating most of the time on part loads. There is hardly any time when you use full power of the engine, right. So, this is what makes it economical. In the mid load, you will have homogeneously lean operation. That means you will make the mixture leaner, but you will do the intake stroke injection. So, this is homogeneously lean. So, this also saves some amount of fuel. And when you are operating at full load condition, at that time you put full quantity during the intake stroke itself, and this is called homogeneous stoichiometric operation. Okay. So, basically in this you prepare rich mixture near the spark plug, which leads to high speed of flame propagation, and it is able to even burn relatively leaner mixtures compared to PFI and carbureted engines. Okay. You see, this is the schematic of GDI engine. So, here this is another configuration where another design, there are several designs. One is where I showed you the piston is very different. This is flat top piston, fuel is injected directly just like a diesel engine from the top, and there is a spark plug here. So, there is a mixture is formed inside the combustion chamber. Overall mixture strength can be very lean, giving it high fuel efficiency. Formation of HCCO and NOx is low. Fuel is injected with high pressures. So, PFI engine, the pressure is 3 bar, GDI engine, the pressure of fuel, gasoline in this case is 150 to 200 bar. And believe me, 150 to 200 bar on gasoline is quite high compared to 2000 bar for diesel. And the reason is that compressing it to 250 bar, 200 bar is challenging because the viscosity of the gasoline is much less compared to diesel. So, that is what makes it quite challenging. Then swirl and tumble motion inside the combustion chamber, they help in homogeneous mixture formation, and there is lesser knocking due to lean mixture formation. So, you see, one is the stratified charge. So, stratified charge is when the piston is going up and you are injecting the fuel, and because of this tumble motion of the air, fuel is getting concentrated very close to the spark plug. This is stratified charge. Now, in the when you want homogeneous charge, as I mentioned to you, the piston is going down in the intake stroke, and then you are doing the injection, and at that time you will inject the fuel, the piston will go down, piston will start coming up. There is a lot of tumble etc. inside the combustion chamber, and that will lead to homogeneous mixture formation. So, this is homogeneous charge. Okay. Then you have spray guided. I showed you another example. So, where the injector was stopped, this is injector mounted at the side. Spray guided. So, here you see the spray is coming hitting directly the piston, and the spark plug is on the way. So, that means when the spray is being done, you apply the spark and you do not need a tumble motion. Then this is called wall guided. So, you have such a strange shape of the piston, and because of the spray, because of the shape of the piston, the spray gets diverted very close to the spark plug. This is called wall guided. And then you have air guided. Air circulation, air motion is primarily used to bring the fuel very close to the spark plug. So, that is called air guided. Okay. So, these are the different designs of GDI engine combustion chambers. So, stratified charge, since you are using stratified charge, you can use higher compression ratios, you can use higher combustion pressures, you have better thermodynamic efficiency. There is no risk of knocking, because knocking takes place in either in knocking takes place mostly in the stoichiometric mixture. Here in GDI engine, either you have richer mixture or you have leaner mixture, you do not have stoichiometric mixture, and therefore, there is no risk of knocking. And overall, if you look at overall, you are using overall air fuel ratio, which is lean. Okay. Homogeneous charge also gives you more power and less emissions. So, when you are using stratified charge, these are the benefits. When you are using homogeneous charge, these are the benefits. So, you are actually able to cater to entire spectrum of the load, from low load to high load. When it is low load, you work in stratified charge mode. When it is high load, you are working in homogeneous charge mode. This is also very important curve, which is going to show you how the engine speed and torque actually work. So, you see, when you are operating at low speed and low torque, this envelope, okay, low speed and low torque, you actually operate in stratified mode, where lambda is very, very small. Okay. This envelope means your engine speed is low, and this small distance means engine torque output is also very low. Speed is low, torque is low, that means the power produced is also very low. You are operating on part load condition. So, you are operating in stratified charge mode. Now, if you increase the speed a little bit more and increase the torque a little bit more, you are actually in homogeneously lean mode. So, from the stratified mode, you change to homogeneously lean mode, where lambda is more than 1, or if you go for lambda equal to 1, then you use lot of EGR. Okay. And this is the envelope you are able to generate. Now, suppose you want very high load and very high speed condition, then this is the envelope. This you can achieve by homogeneous mode, where lambda equal to 1, or sometimes lambda is even less than 1. That means you put in more fuel than the theoretically required fuel. So, less amount of air. Okay. So, basically this is achieved by multiple injections. So, instead of one injection, you can do multiple injections. So, I do not want to discuss it right now, because when I discuss common rail direct injection, at that time I will discuss all the concepts of pilot injection, post injection. So, basically right now you just understand that double injection means that in same engine cycle, you can have multiple injections, you can have 2 or 3 injections of small bursts of fuel in the same cycle. Okay. Now, if you look at the performance, just to put it simply, this is also a curve which is where the engine speed is shown on the x axis, engine torque is shown on the y axis, and so this is the less fuel consumption zone or less part load condition zone. So, in this part load condition, you are doing the fuel injection in the compression stroke, at the end of the compression stroke, and this typical characteristic of this is less fuel consumption, and you are doing basically you are stratifying the charge. So, the fuel is concentrated very close to the spark plug. The overall air fuel ratio is 30 to 40 overall. Have you ever heard of overall air fuel ratio for a gasoline engine 30? It is not possible, but it is possible in GDI engine. Why? Because this is overall. Close to the spark plug, this will still be 12 to 18. Outside, it will be very less fuel or no fuel. That is how you are able to achieve overall air fuel ratio 30 to 40. And this is what makes it very economical. Because you at idling or part load, you just need to produce enough power to overcome the friction and maybe produce small amount of useful power. You do not need a whole lot of fuel, you need very small quantity of fuel, and that is provided by this combustion concept. This zone is where you need lot of torque, lot of power. So, this is characteristic of superior output. So, here you have more homogeneous mixture. So, you do injection during the intake stroke, and here you see overall air fuel ratio varies from 13 to 24. Even in superior power mode, the mixture is leaner than PFI, which is 12 to 18. So, you are able to actually have some fuel economy in even in superior power mode. Again, this is showing here volumetric efficiency of the conventional PFI engine is lower and volumetric efficiency of GDI engine is relatively higher. Can you tell me why? Why does it happen? What is volumetric efficiency? Volumetric efficiency is the amount of air taken in divided by theoretically possible air taken in or the swept volume, mass of the air in the swept volume. Obviously, this is low here because you are doing it very fast, you are not able to charge it to the desired pressure. In GDI engines, it is higher. Why? Because you are injecting the fuel in the cylinder and you are allowing the fuel to evaporate. Once the fuel evaporation happens, what happens? It will absorb the latent heat from the surrounding air. Temperature of the intake air will fall. Once the temperature falls, the density will increase. It will create more vacuum, so more air will be sucked into the combustion chamber. And that is why the volumetric efficiency of GDI engine is about 5% higher, 5+% higher than conventional MPFI engine. So, since the volumetric efficiency is higher, what will happen to power output? Power output will also be proportionally higher. So, that is why GDI engine is actually able to generate more power output compared to conventional PFI engine. Now, you look at the benefits. You have better control, you have superior fuel economy, you have higher power output, you have lower emissions. What else do you want? Excellent, isn't it? So, intake stroke injection gives you superior output, compression stroke gives you lean fuel consumption, and higher volumetric efficiency of GDI engine than MPFI engine also gives you greater power output. So, that is a positive sign. Well, as I said, in engine research lab also we have the first GDI research engine in India. So, this is the GDI engine and this is just an experimental setup for doing experiments. I will show you when we go to the lab. So, this is equipped with a combustion analyzer. So, that means it will measure everything inside the combustion chamber and analyze it. I told you how to do the analysis of the cylinder pressure P theta diagram converted to rate of heat release, start of combustion, end of combustion, etc. So, all of this is done by here. The power generated by the engine is absorbed by dynamometer and it converts into AC current and then it feeds it back into the grid, right. So, this is basically the engine oil conditioning unit, coolant conditioning unit, fuel conditioning unit. Basically, in order to control the engine, you have to maintain the fuel temperature, oil temperature, coolant temperature. So, these are the units. This is the control panel for the dynamometer control and here you see the exhaust goes out. So, you have a plethora of instruments to measure the exhaust. What are the instruments? Of course, you have a gas analyzer which will tell you, gas analyzer tells you all the regulated emissions, CO, CO2, NOx, hydrocarbons, oxygen. So, all that is told by this guy. And there is a hot FID instrument. It tells you very precisely what is the hydrocarbon emission coming out. Okay. Then we draw a sample, put into a partial dilution tunnel. So, partial dilution tunnel, you basically collect the particulate on a filter paper and then you can do lot of analysis. You can do scanning electron microscopy, you can do elemental analysis, how much is organic carbon, elemental carbon, how much is trace metal in the particulate. We do hair splitting of particulate, we do absolutely phenomenal analysis of particulates in our lab. And then here we have something called engine exhaust particle sizer. So, that engine exhaust particle sizer measures the particle number and size, and it can measure particle sizes from 5.6 nanometer to 560 nanometer. 560 nanometer means 0.5 micron, yes, that is the largest size that we measure. And just to put things in perspective, your hair is about 50 micron, So, that means the largest particle that we measure is about 100 times smaller than your hair. The smallest particle that we measure is about 10,000 times smaller than your hair. Okay. And we can measure concentrations up to 100 million particles in 1 cc of exhaust, and we do that 10 times in 1 second. So, you can imagine the capability of the instrument. This is the first and the best instrument in the country as well. This is also one of the best instrument in the country, first instrument in the country. This is called FTIR analyzer. So, regulated emissions everybody measures, but there are many nasty species, hydrocarbon species that are coming out. It could have even carbonyl groups, sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, if you have to do the benzene, toluene, xylene, pHs, etc., etc. So, all the concentration of these can be measured by this from 0 to 200 ppm, very small concentrations can be measured by this instrument. And then you have smoke opacimeter. So, this is the plethora of instruments for measuring the emissions. Okay. And here you have to control the fuel injection. So, this is the open ECU, and this is the computer to control open ECU. So, this here you can give the command of when to apply the spark, what pressure fuel should be injected, what should be the duration of injection. So, everything is controlled here. Okay. So, all this setup is made here by Nikhil. So, he will be very happy to give you a demonstration. So, this is how the setup looks like. Okay. Now, let us look at limitations of GDI. So, what are the limitations? First is that if you look at the cylinder head, these are all small engines. Okay. Gasoline engines are small engines for car applications. So, in a small cylinder, you already have nowadays 2 intake valves, 2 exhaust valves, 1 spark plug. You have to make another hole in that to put the injector. The head is already very crowded. It is very difficult to find space for an extra injector. Okay. So, this is one big challenge. Then you have to have added cooling and casting complications. If you make somehow find a space, how do you make sure that the casting is good? Cylinder head is made by casting. So, there are many complications there, and the refinements that are necessary for idling. Then GDI has greater need for emission control. So, emission control is also quite challenging. Then complex combustion chamber design and control of GDI is quite complex. Okay. So, control is quite complex. Development challenges. So, it is difficult, controlling the stratified charge is challenging. In spite of all the electronics that you have at your disposal, it is not that simple. Then the injection technology, especially at transients, load changes, that is quite complex. How do you manage transients? And in the vehicle, transients is a norm. You always, all the time, you change the gears, you change the speed. So, this is quite challenging. Then you see the injector deposits and ignition system fouling is also very high. The spark plug you get deposits, injectors you get deposits. And then you have relatively higher unburned hydrocarbon emissions, relatively higher carbon monoxide emissions. So, they have to be tackled by exhaust gas after treatment. Sometimes you have relatively higher NOx emissions under certain operating conditions. So, they have to be tackled. Definitely, gasoline engines are not known to emit particulates, but GDI engine has that additional problem, because you are injecting the fuel and the fuel is concentrated very close to the spark plug. There is not enough air available at that time. So, you have additional problem of particulates. So, this is one gasoline engine which has problem of particulates. Particulates are normally a problem which is associated with diesel engines, it is not associated with gasoline engines. Unfortunately, GDI engine also has problems of particulates. Okay. Then, 3-way catalyst cannot be utilized for full advantage. I will tell you in next slides what is the 3-way catalyst and why you cannot use it fully. Then, increased electrical power and voltage requirements for injectors in the drivers. So, everything is solenoid operated. So, you need lot of electronic, you need to supply power, electrical power, to control the ECU, to control the solenoids, to control the sensors and actuators. With the introduction of electronics in the engine such as ECU, GDI is possible. If ECU was not there, GDI would not be possible. In PFI, we can still manage without electronics, because I told you K-Jetronic, it's a mechanical system. Of course, the T-Jetronic, L-Jetronic, they were electronic systems, but K-Jetronic was completely mechanical. The GDI engine you cannot have without electronics. ECU is a must. And then what happens is that people have developed, and then everybody patents their IP, and then it becomes difficult, the other companies cannot use it. So, patent of different companies sometimes creates high cost for the manufacturer. If I want to use the same method which you have patented, I have to pay you money. So, my cost of production goes up. So, patents I think last for about 20 years. So, after 20 years anybody can use it free of cost, but for 20 years people have to pay the patent owner. So, this is actually creating a lot of problem for the OEM. OEM costs are going up. Okay, I think should I take 5 more minutes? Okay, so the major objective of the GDI engine is ultra low fuel consumption than even diesel engine, and superior power output than conventional MPFI engine. So, the major difference between GDI and MPFI is multi-point fuel injection. Fuel is injected in each intake port. Currently one of the most widely used systems. All the gasoline engines, most of them use PFI. However, even MPFI engine, there are limits of fuel supply response and combustion control, because the fuel mixes with the air before the cylinder. See, in carburetor engine, why the carburetor engine became out of favor? Two reasons. One is, of course, carburetor engines have very poor emission response. That was one big lacuna, because of which the death knell was put in the head of carburetor engines. But one of the other factors which was responsible for the death of carburetor engines was that carburetors, if you need power, suppose you are going on a highway and suddenly you need power, so you press the accelerator. So then what will happen? It will change the throttle, then it will take time for vacuum to get created, and it will take time for more fuel to be injected, and then it will take more time to give power to deliver. So that means the time when you demand the power and the time when it is delivered, there is significant amount of time gap. So the response of PFI engine, response of carburetor engines was very slow. Okay. And suppose you are on a highway, in a matter of fraction of seconds there can be accidents. Okay. So this was one big problem, that the response of the carburetor engine was slow. People want that as soon as I demand, it should give me extra power, and it is a reasonable demand. So that is why the PFI engines were developed. In PFI there is no vacuum system, in PFI you press the accelerator, what it does is, there is no, it is a wire, but basically it is connected to a potentiometer. So you change the potentiometer setting, and through ECU it directly increases the amount of fuel. So now the lag is only between increase of the fuel to combustion and to the power being delivered. So the lag is actually significantly smaller than carburetor engines. So PFI engines are very, very fast response. Okay, you can control the fuel air mixture very, very precisely. So emissions are also not so bad as carburetor engines, and that is why it was better. So in this case, GDI engine is directly injected in the cylinder. So in PFI it is injected in the port, in GDI it is directly injected in the cylinder. And I tell you, the electrical signal flows much faster than the vacuum signal. So that is why MPFI and GDI engines are much more fast response compared to carburetor engine. GDI is even faster than this, because here you are injecting the fuel directly in the cylinder. Okay. So in GDI engine, gasoline is directly injected in the cylinder, just like in a diesel engine, and the injection timings are precisely controlled to match the conditions. So the response time of GDI is actually much faster than even PFI engine. Extremely precise control of fuel supply to achieve fuel efficiency that exceeds diesel engines by enabling combustion of ultra lean fuel mixture supply. I told you in ultra lean mode you can go up to 40 overall, 30 to 40 air fuel ratio. Very efficient intake and relatively higher compression ratio unique to GDI engine deliver both high performance and response that surpasses conventional MPFI engine. I told you that GDI engine, the knocking does not take place in GDI engine so much, because it is not dealing with stoichiometric mixture. Since problem of knocking is not there, what you can do is you can increase the compression ratio. Once you increase the compression ratio, your engine becomes more efficient. So, this is another reason why GDI engines are more efficient compared to PFI engines. This figure shows how the progress is made towards higher efficiency and power. Here you see this is air fuel mixture and this is fuel economy. So, you are going up, you are becoming more fuel efficient. Carburetor engine is right here. So, that means it is dealing with rich mixtures and it is giving you very poor fuel economy. This is where the MPFI engine is, relatively leaner and relatively higher fuel economy. So, today in the world the trend is that you want to burn mixtures very lean. Leaner mixture will have greater combustion efficiency and the thermodynamic cycle will be closer to ideal cycle. That is why in most of the cases, when you want to meet the emission norms and increase the efficiency, the general trend is make the mixture lean and then turbocharge your engine. Put in the same amount of fuel, but put in more amount of air, and this is what is seen here also. See, this is the diesel engine. Diesel engine, the mixture is very lean and its efficiency is good, but the GDI engine, the mixture is leaner and it is more efficient. So, you are talking of a GDI engine which is actually more, either is equal efficient or more efficient than diesel engine. This is what is the progress towards the higher efficiency. If you look at the output, so this is the power output. So, power output from carburetor engine is very low. MPFI engine is more power output and GDI engine it is even more power output. So, from 1970s to 2000, this is the progress made in power output in kilowatt per liter in from 1 liter of swept volume of the engine, how much power, how many kilowatt you can derive. Again, this is the transition. I think this figure I showed you and explained you in the beginning. This is the carburetor engine, okay, 1970s and 1980s. Injector, port fuel injection, this came around 1980s, still going very strong. You can see this is continuing, and around 2000 the gasoline GDI was invented 1995-96 and it is continuing to go strong, but this is definitely over. The only vehicles in which you find carburetor are some bikes, and there also it is on way out. Unfortunately, this animation is not working, but you can see here this is the GDI engine. Injector is right here, piston is very strange shape, and when you inject there is a cavity inside. When you inject, the fuel goes and gets concentrated close to the spark plug. This is a PFI engine. The fuel is injected right in the intake manifold. This is the intake valve, okay. So, this is the difference, and this is the animation. You can see it in bigger form. This is the GDI engine animation. So, there are few key technical features which are very different from conventional multi-point port fuel injection engine or from carbureted engines, and these are very special features which make the gasoline direct injection possible. So, the first such technical feature is upright straight intake port, okay. So, basically you see here in most of the engines you will see that there is a exhaust port and there is a intake port, and these intake ports are horizontal ports, whereas in this case you have straight upright intake port. This extends all the way up. So, this is called upright straight intake port, and this basically what it does is it helps in achieving the optimal air flow inside the engine. See, your idea of having a gasoline direct injection engine possible is that you have to create some kind of a tumble motion inside the combustion chamber, okay, so that your fuel gets concentrated very close to the spark plug. So, in this case you see what is happening is that if you have a
horizontal port, then it will be very difficult for you to achieve such a tumble motion. Whereas if you have a straight upright intake port, the air comes in with some momentum, and then when it strikes this wall and then this piston, it is very easy for it to achieve the tumble motion. So, and then also you see when you have horizontal ports and you are trying to bring the air in, it is changing the direction, and because of this change in direction, what will happen is that the volumetric efficiency of the engine will reduce, because now the air is changing the direction, and therefore lesser amount of mass of air will be able to enter the engine. In this case, since it is a straight intake port and the air is not changing its direction, this leads to higher volumetric efficiency also of the gasoline direct injection. And higher volumetric efficiency, all of us know that if we have higher volumetric efficiency, we will be able to induct more mass of the air in the combustion chamber, and therefore we will also be able to put more mass of the fuel in the combustion chamber and generate more power output from the same engine. So, higher volumetric efficiency in a way translates directly into increase in power output from the engine. So, conventional petrol engines, as I said, use horizontal intake port. The GDI engine is the first ever engine to feature upright straight intake port. So, this is the first time the upright intake ports like this have been used, and this enables them to direct greater volume of the air smoothly and directly down to the piston, and it also increases the volumetric efficiency and power output, just the simple design of the intake port. Okay. The second feature is curved top piston for better combustion. So, what happens is that in this engine, this GDI engine is possible only when you are able to achieve some kind of tumble motion. Now, why should the air change its direction? So, air, if it is a flat piston, the air change, the change in the direction of the air will not be smooth, because it is having corners and corners. So, in order to make a smooth glide over the piston, what you do is you make some kind of a cavity in the piston, and so the air comes in and it glides over that cavity, and very smoothly without creating too much of turbulence it changes its direction. And when you inject the fuel in this incoming air, all the fuel droplets will also travel along the direction, and they will get concentrated very close to the spark plug, and that is what will make the GDI possible. So, the second very important technical feature of the GDI engine is curved top piston. It improves the combustion, you can achieve better combustion. This contributes to more effective combustion by shaping the air charge into compact, concentrated reverse vertical flow and concentrating the injected flow immediately beneath the spark plug. So, without creating much of a turbulence, it compacts the fuel, and fuel gets concentrated very close to the spark plug, and therefore, one of the advantage of GDI is that the part load, you do not need to fill the entire chamber with fuel, only the area very close to the spark plug can have fuel, rest of the places you can have just air or very lean mixture. Okay, that is how you create stratification. So, in this also this kind of a special curved top piston plays a very important role. The third technical feature is high pressure fuel pump to pressurize fuel into the injector. Now, you see in GDI engine what happens is that you are basically injecting the fuel at two different pressures. Rather, I should not say two different pressures, it is in two different positions of the piston in the cylinder. You can inject the fuel when the piston is coming down in the intake stroke. So, when you do that in the cylinder, it is just atmospheric pressure if it is naturally aspirated, considering it is a naturally aspirated engine. So, that means if you inject in the beginning of the intake stroke, it is going to be almost like port fuel injection engine. The entire charge will form a homogeneous charge, the entire cylinder will be filled with homogeneous charge. Okay. So, there it is no problem, because it is just the atmospheric pressure against which you are injecting the fuel. Now, the second injection that we do is under part load condition, you are just taking the air in, there is no injection in the intake stroke, and you compress the air, and towards the end of the compression, just like in diesel engine, you inject the fuel, actually slightly advanced, but still at that time the cylinder pressure is quite substantial. Okay. So, you cannot inject the fuel at 3 bar, because the pressure in the cylinder will certainly be more than 3 bar. So, MPFI system pump will not work. Here, therefore, the fuel need to be pressurized. So, this fuel pressure that we use in GDI engine typically varies between 100 bar to 200 bar. It is not as high as diesel, but it is still much higher than port fuel injection. Okay. So, therefore, you will have the same fuel injection system working in the homogeneous charge mode and as well as stratified charge mode. Okay. I will explain these also again in great detail. So, the high pressure fuel pump delivers the fuel at an appropriately high pressure, which is certainly higher than 3 bar, and it varies from 100 to 200 bar directly into the engine cylinder, either in the intake stroke or at the end of compression stroke. Okay. So, this is the third key technical feature of the 5 special features of GDI engine. Fourth key technical feature is that you use high pressure swirl injector for optimal air fuel mixing. So, you see what happens is that in this what you want is that when you are injecting the fuel, you want it to mix with air. So, what you do is you have a swirl injector, that means the fuel will be swirling, okay, and it will be a hollow cone. So, you can see from this figure that it is swirling, and here you can see that this is a hollow cone. That means the fuel is only present in the periphery. In the center of this cone, it is just the air. So, when you have air inside and outside, what will happen? The mixing of fuel and air will be quicker, and therefore, you will be able to mix the fuel better. Because here you see in GDI engine, one of the things is that the time available for evaporation of the fuel and mixing with the air is very small. Okay, you have to do it inside the combustion chamber. So, the high pressure swirl injector controls the vaporization and dispersion of the fuel spray, and you can actually adjust the spray pattern as necessary to match each of the GDI's combustion modes, okay, whether it is homogeneous charge combustion mode or whether it is stratified combustion mode. Okay. The fifth key feature is vertical tumble flow. So, the GDI engine curved top piston, here you can see, you can get a better idea. So, air is coming in through the straight upright intake manifold, this is curved top piston, and then you know it is a reverse tumble flow, it is a tumble. So, direction is reversing. So, GDI engine's curved top piston shapes the air drawn into the cylinder into a compact vertical tumble flow, which is maintained throughout the compression stroke. So, even in the compression stroke, the direction does not change. Okay. This tumble flow is particularly effective because it carries air up to the spark plug in a concentrated form, and it also ensures rich mixtures at the spark plug, rich mixture which is rich enough to burn. If it is very lean, it is not going to burn. Okay. So, even when the overall air fuel mixture is lean, but close to the spark plug, it is going to be rich mixture. Okay. So, overall if it is lean, you are going to save fuel at part loads. This results in a clean and thorough combustion, and also it gives you good fuel economy, okay, particularly at part load conditions. And you know that engine, for most of the applications, most of the time you are operating the engine in part load condition only. So, it saves quite a bit of fuel. Okay. Now, you see, if you are employed by a vehicle manufacturer and you are asked to develop a car or a truck or whatever, there will be few expectations. Okay. You would like the vehicle to deliver excellent performance. If your vehicle is giving 10% more mileage than your competition, keeping all other things constant, obviously you will have benefit in terms of selling your vehicle in the market. So, all the automotive manufacturers are now interested in increasing the fuel efficiency. There are fuel efficiency norms which are called CAFE norms that have been introduced in the Indian market also. So, now those CAFE norms have to be employed, and also the fuel economy is very important, because per kilometer travel, if you burn lesser amount of fuel, that also means that you will be putting lesser amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and therefore, you know, COP21 that we have signed, that India has signed, also really demands that our vehicles should be more fuel better, they should offer us better fuel economy, they should be more fuel efficient. Okay. And then, you know, the vehicle should give you super performance. So, if you guys are going to go to the market and then, you know, you get a vehicle which is not giving good enough acceleration, if you go to highway, it takes a lot of time to go to 100 kilometers an hour, you are not going to buy it, whatever may be the fuel mileage. So these are contradictory requirements. You want better fuel economy, but then at the same time you want it to be fast acceleration, and then you also want but the government wants. So government will not allow the vehicles to be sold if they are not meeting the emission norms of the day. Today in our country we are having Bharat stage 4 norms applicable. Okay. By 2020 we are going to go on to Bharat stage 6 directly, escaping Bharat stage 4. And then you also want driving comfort. That means you want that the engine should not vibrate too much. The vehicle should be free from vibrations. If you travel 1000 kilometers in a day in a car, your back should not start hurting you. Okay. You must have seen in old times, in former times, there used to be jeeps. If you travel 100 kilometers, you really need a rest, because then your back will start hurting. It is really going to vibrate quite a bit, even in rural areas in a lot of different parts of the country, and especially from the part that I come from. Sometimes the roads are not good and the only vehicle that survives are some of those jeeps, and then if you travel 100 kilometers, you are done for the day. Okay. So that really affects the economy quite a bit, because people cannot travel, and then it affects all the downstream economy related processes. Therefore, driving comfort from the automobile is extremely important in today's times. It should be not vibrating. Okay. So there is growing awareness about global warming as well, which is a big threat to the environment. I told you about COP21, and this offer another challenge to the vehicle manufacturers. Okay. And when you join your job in automotive industry, these are the real challenges that you have to face, and you have to develop technology to cater to each of them. Okay. You have to tick all the boxes. Even if one box is not ticked, your vehicle is not going to see the market. Okay. So this is a big problem. And then CO2 reduction is called for preventing the global warming, and there is immediate need to develop and promote widely used power plant that emit significantly less CO2 than conventional petrol engines. So I think there are many efforts that are being done. Methanol is also being looked to displace some of the carbon dioxide being emitted into the environment. There are many things that are being done for this last point too. But GDI engine is certainly one of the ways in which you can reduce the CO2 that is being put into the environment by automotive sector. Now you see, we have to understand that we have to have an efficient vehicle. GDI engine offers that better efficiency compared to port fuel injection. Okay. But you have to also understand that GDI engine gives you a lot of benefit in terms of lower HC emissions, lower CO emissions, but the particulates are quite high. Okay. I told you the GDI is the only gasoline engine from which emits lot of particulates. MPFI engine really does not emit any particulates, because their fuel rich zones are not present in MPFI engine. They are present in GDI engines. That's why the particulates are emitted. So now you need to. So whenever you want to try to reduce the particulate, the NOx goes up because of the soot NOx trade off. So this becomes a big challenge, how to manage, because if you want to control one emission, the other one goes up. You can't try to control the other one, the first one goes up. So it's a big problem, and therefore what you do is you try to control one of the pollutants in the combustion chamber, and then you try to control the other one, which will obviously form now in the after treatment system. So I will tell you something that is done in case of GDI, because GDI also is supposed to meet even the most stringent emission norms such as Euro 6 and Euro 7, which is in planning. So what you do here is that you do early activation of the catalyst by two-stage combustion. Some time ago I talked to you about the cold start emissions. Okay. So the cold start emission really mean that when you start the engine from cold, all the valves, all the cylinders, every component of the engine is cold. So once you start injecting the fuel in the combustion chamber, what will happen? There will be lot of HC and CO emissions, because the engine is cold. Okay. And you have catalytic converter to take care of HC and CO, but the catalytic converter will also not work. Why it will not work? because its light off temperature is around 250 degrees centigrade. Light off temperature means it will start working, the catalyst will start becoming functional only when it has attained the temperature of 250. Now, how does this get heated up? It gets heated up because of the hot exhaust, but when you start the engine is cold, so the exhaust will also be cold, because whatever exhaust heat is there, it will be absorbed by all the piston, connecting rods, cylinder head, exhaust manifold, etc., etc. Everything will start getting warmed up. So, in the process, heat is lost by the exhaust gas. So, it takes about 5 minutes before the 4 to 5 minutes before the catalytic converter obtains a temperature of 250 degrees centigrade. So, what it means essentially is that for first 4-5 minutes you are completely without any defense. Lot of hydrocarbons are being produced and you do not have any defense. What is your defense? DOC, the catalytic converter, and catalytic converter is not functional because it is not obtained the temperature. So, how can you handle this problem? So, this problem is actually handled by earlier activation of the catalyst by two-stage combustion. So, what you do is that by two-stage combustion, you try to cut down this first 4-5 minutes to say 20 seconds or 30 seconds, okay? And I will tell you how we do it. So, this is a feature which is made possible by the GDI's precise control over the formation of air fuel mixture. So, control of the GDI engine becomes extremely important. Control of the GDI engine means you should be able to inject whenever you want, at whatever pressure you want, whatever duration you want. You need a very, very robust and precise control, okay? And that has to be done using microprocessor. So, you have to have a microprocessor, then you have to have solenoid controlled injectors and fuel pumps, which are electronic fuel pumps, okay? Then what you do is you use reactive type exhaust manifold, which maximizes this effect. What is the reactive type manifold? So, you see, whenever you want to heat something, there is an exhaust gas that is passing, okay, and there is a substrate which you need to heat. Now, if the velocity of the exhaust gas is very fast, there is no time for heat transfer. So, whatever heat you may have in the exhaust gas, it will take longer time to get transferred into the substrate. So, what is done in reactive type manifold is that this hot gas, the velocity is reduced somehow, okay. So, once you reduce the velocity, there is sufficient time for the heat to get transferred from the hot exhaust gas to the substrate that you want to heat. What is that substrate? Substrate is a catalytic converter. So, this effect is actually maximized by reactive type manifold. Then you need to sometime control the NOx emissions. So, for controlling the NOx emissions, EGR is the best way. So, what you do is you use high volume EGR in case of GDI. You put in much more EGR compared to what you put in a MPFI engine in this. And why you put it? Why you can put it? You can put it because GDI engine combustion is highly stable combustion. So, when you put exhaust gas, it tries to destabilize the combustion, but since it is highly stable, so even high volume EGR is not able to make it unstable. So, by putting EGR, you are able to reduce quite a bit of NOx, but you cannot make the NOx zero, you cannot really reduce to a very, very low levels. So, in order to reduce the NOx to a very low level, what you do is you have a revamped lean NOx catalyst. This is exhaust gas after treatment. So, what you do is you kill that NOx by the exhaust gas after treatment, lean NOx catalyst, okay. So, what is this lean NOx catalyst? I will briefly touch now in this lecture, and then I will take separate lecture, maybe a 2 hours lecture on how we control NOx from the engines in one of the forthcoming lectures. So, these are the 4 actions that you take, and all these actions actually help you clean the GDI engine exhaust emissions. So, by combining these features in a highly streamlined format that reflect global market trends, an improved GDI engine will be able to meet the global environmental requirements. So, whatever environmental and emission requirements are enforced by a particular region, for example, India or Pakistan or China or US or Europe, whatever norms are prevailing, all these features or a combination of these will be able to comply to those emission regulations, and you will be able to sell GDI engine in those particular markets. So, even the most stringent emission norms can actually be met by by the combination of these steps. Okay.